Today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. The time now is 6 p.m. and I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023 by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website, designated posting place 24 hours to the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda. The second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. In addition, public comment will also be accepted during tonight's public hearing, and that will be item number 10. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Harris. Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, June 10th, 2024, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mary. Please join me in a moment of silence for friends and family with serious health conditions or in the hospital. Thank you very much for your time. Please stand and join me with in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next is review and approve agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll move to approve the agenda as is. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have an agenda for this evening. Next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I do have some items that I'd like to update you on that I just came across my desk in the last 2 days. First of all, I did misspeak on our retreat that is next Monday. It's actually going to be out at Public Works because we don't have the space here. So I think I put in my weekly report that it was here at Town Hall. So if you would remember that, please remember in 2 weeks, I mean, you're going to see a lot of each other. So we're going to meet tonight and then our retreat. And then we have our next board meeting on the 24th. And remember we're going to be cutting the ribbon for the community center. They will have mobilized. They're going to mobilize next week, but we'll find a safe spot for us. So that'll be next in 2 weeks at 5:30. You can just meet here and then we'll walk across. I did get a note today from Comcast. So in July, Liberty Ranch will be live. So if you hear anything, they will be canvassing the neighborhood. They did get a solicitor's license from us. They're also going to put out mailers. So, and it'll go pretty rapidly because as you know, they're starting on the south. So Liberty Ranch was the first neighborhood. They're across 66 and moving our way. So just if anybody asks you, if they have any questions, we can direct them to the people at Comcast. But that's really exciting because now there's another choice in town. Another thing to be aware of, United Power is going to start the undergrounding of the poles over by Ziggy's and all the ones that haven't been undergrounded in anticipation of the intersection project, and they're starting next week. So you're going to start to see a lot of the activity that I've been talking about forever. You'll see that downtown. You're also going to see, obviously, they're going to mobilize onto the community center site. And then finally, what I was saying before the meeting, I just wanted to say it for emphasis, but the band, The Long Run, Lorelei booked for Community Day. So any of you Eagles fans or anyone else, it's a great band and really excited to have them come to Mead. So that's all I have for my updates, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments for Helen tonight? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your time and your report. All right, we'll move on to our first of three informational items tonight. The first one is going to be a 2024 pavement management update by Manny. So you have the podium if you want to come up. Manny is our pavement management program manager, and he is going to give us an update and some information of what's happening around in our wonderful town. Thank you, Manny, for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. It's always nice to know what's going on when we're going to be tearing up the roads and making a bunch of noise and mess. So I prepared a little slide show for that. This is kind of an overview, and that actually is a picture from today up in Margle Farms where they're taking out concrete. This is kind of a breakdown of what we're doing and what we're spending the money on. Our concrete's about 170,000. We're doing about 2.3 million in asphalt. Crack seal's about 30,000. Our chip seal's about 93,000. Our slurry seal's about 145,000, which gives us a grand total of about 2.74 million, which is a lot. But it's exciting. I live here that we're maintaining our streets and making things better. So I'm super happy that we're doing this stuff as our residents. So here's where we're doing the work. Our concrete repairs are happening in Feather Ridge. Actually, that work's all done. That wrapped up last Friday. They're currently working in Margle Farms right now, and it's a lot of drainage problems, damaged concrete, whatever we deem to be repaired up there. And then on 5th Street, we have like a sidewalk infill, and I have some pictures of that a little bit later and what that means. Our asphalt reconstruction, one of our jobs is the County Road 32 from 9.5 to I-25, that frontage road down there. That's kind of a partnering, not a partnering project, but in anticipation of that High Plains Boulevard. We don't want to have our mess next to something brand new. So we're going to do that road. Feather Ridge Estates, we're going to repave that. And then Lake Hollow Estates, we're going to repave that. We're going to crack seal Margle Farms. Slurry sealing, we'll use our projects that we didn't have, that were not done last year, which would be downtown and to Hunter's Cove. Those are being transferred forward. And then our chip seal, we'll do a couple of streets inside of the Seekich Business Park. I'm going to have some maps here to show us. Here's a couple of examples of what we did in Feather Ridge. There's just busted concrete. The one on the left there on Falcon Circle was a utility cut, looks like water. And when it was repaired, who knows how many years ago, they didn't do it correctly. And it was kind of a tripping hazard and just a really bad eyesore. So we're fixing that. And then just some random damage here on Eagle. There's another example of what that looks like. Those are repaired. Like I said, that's already been completed. Here's Margle Farms, just some random damage. There's an apron there that's damaged. It just looks really shabby. So a lot of this concrete we do before we do any paving or slurry sealing really helps the neighborhood for drainage and just the way it looks. This next slide. So the 5th Street sidewalk, I'm not sure where the complaint came from, but somebody had either emailed it or something about there's no sidewalk on the east side of 5th Street from Welker to Dillingham. And I was like, no, there's a few places. And he was like, well, this is a special case because we have a handicapped child that comes in and out of the school and the traffic's a little nuts there. And if anybody's ever been in that area when school lets out, it's just downright dangerous. So one day I decided to go and sit down there. I just kind of slinked into the neighborhood and sat there for about 45 minutes. And it is crazy. And this poor father and mother had to wheel their kid like across the street in the traffic with multiple lanes. And I was like, well, let's see if we can do something. And then, so we're going to infill all this sidewalk, which is super exciting. And here's some picture of what it looks like. It's just, there's just little pieces missing that we can fill them in and make it so much safer down there. So that's one of our other projects we're doing this year, which will happen a little bit later in the summer. So here's one of the jobs we're going to repave in Feather Ridge. That's just right around the corner from here. You can see from that picture on the right, that just asphalt. There's nothing really much bigger than a 4-inch square, which that pavement is just completely failed and has to be replaced. Another slide here. Lake Hollow Estates is a little bit further in the north. Same thing where just the asphalt is way beyond its service life and it has to be replaced 100%, which is a story with a lot of the streets in town, unfortunately. So here is that County Road 32 west of County Road 9.5. So the red piece is what we're going to pave. The green is the project at High Plains Boulevard, where they're going to continue that up to 34. So we're making sure we're not overlapping, and that street is in terrible condition. It needs to be replaced. It's a weekly maintenance nightmare for our crews. So it's kind of working out. It's getting done this year, and it'll be a nice brand new street and new intersection of what that's going to look like once they're all done. It'll really help, and it will get a lot more traffic down there. Next slide. So Margot Farms, here's kind of a crack seal overview. There'll be concrete repairs, patching, crack seal, and then next year we will slurry seal it. You try to get too much stuff in 1 year, sometimes it can happen. So that's how Margot Farms will pan out for the year. The downtown slurry seal, that will happen this summer. It's literally a 2-day project. It'll go pretty fast. And it's nice to have all the streets done downtown when we get the 4th Street building open and stuff. It'll really refresh it down there and get all the striping refreshed. Here's Hunter Coves. That's another job that got pushed from last year. This will get taken care of this year. And the Seekich Business Park, we're going to chip seal that, which the treatment's a little bit different, a little more commercial minded. But yeah, here's a couple of streets that we're going to do down in the Seekich Business Park. And these are just maintainable streets that we can just slurry seal, chip seal, crack seal, stuff like that. And I think that is all of it. Does anybody have any questions about what's kind of happening around town?
Questions, comments? Herman?
Manny, timing?
They're doing concrete now as we speak. I'm waiting for a schedule from our asphalt contractor, which it should be starting in July. And I'm just going to get all that stuff out of the way, and then we'll come in and slurry seal stuff. So everything should be wrapped up before school, maybe a month into school, possibly. Yeah, it goes pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else?
I got one.
Oh, sorry.
I
Chris.
just wanted to make sure you thank your staff. They've been so patient with the kids down in Margot Farms because they're standing there watching them, and they make sure that they're out of the way, but they talk to the kids about what they're doing. So please thank them for that, because the parents love it, because it's occupied the kids for the first week of summer. So
Yeah, we have a top-notch contractor, and they're really good. So we're real happy with that. So, which is exciting. Yep.
Manny, thank you. And on behalf of the Crane family, thank you very much for taking care of them and that sidewalk on 5th Street. It did come from the father, and he did reach out to both Helen and I about that, the situation there with Isaiah. So thank you very much. I'd also like to see if we could do something. I'm not sure if I got my roads right, but at Seekage Business Park, is it Mulligan? It's really just bad. So if we could put some effort into it into 2025 or 2026, it's just like this. So I don't know. It's probably all the cuts and everything, but something to look forward to and that.
Yeah, so that Mulligan and Mead Street, I looked at that to do that this year, but there's just a lot to be done there. Drainage.
Yeah.
Some storm drain can be moved, things can be moved around. So we're actually going to have that area kind of surveyed and designed through our engineering department. But yeah, that is on our schedule for next year to go in there and just make some massive improvements in there, which will bring all that entire area up to speed for sure. Like that entire area will be completely touched in the last 2 years and 3 years. So yeah, that is definitely on our radar for next year.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time on this.
Yep, thank
We
you.
look forward. I'm sure the whole town is looking forward to better roads. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next, our second informational item tonight, it will be a police update. And Chief, are you going to do this? All right, our Chief of Police, Brett Newmakes. Sir, you have the podium.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Do I have a presentation or anything? Yeah. So I wanted to give you a quick update on our flock camera systems and just how that project is going. As you recall, we installed a couple of stationary flock cameras, and flock cameras are license plate reader cameras that capture vehicles going by. So as the vehicle goes by, it captures the back of it and captures the license plate if it's visible from the vehicle. And then that's recorded in the system. I think they're saved for about 30 days. And any alerts that can be gained off of that license plate are then sent directly to officers via their data terminal in their vehicle. So they get a little alert sound, and a picture pops up of the vehicle, and it tells them what that alert is for. If it's reported missing person, if it's a vehicle of interest in some case, if it's the registered owner has active warrants for their arrest, those are the types of alerts that officer might get from that camera. So we've been getting quite a few of those from those stationary cameras out, and they're out in the area of Mead Street and Highway 66. We would really like those to be in the high traffic areas. So we're looking to possibly move them onto Highway 66, but that requires some CDOT right-of-way permissions. And so that's been in process for a couple of years, CDOT working out the process for those right-of-way approvals. And those have just started coming through to some of the agencies who have had those requests in for some time. And part of that project is also that Colorado State Patrol is rolling out some cameras on major thoroughfares around Colorado, I-25 being one of those. And so as this project continues and the system continues to grow, we share information. So we can actually put a vehicle of interest if we have a vehicle that's associated with a case that we're working and we're trying to identify people in that maybe or find them. We can actually put that information into the system and get an alert. And pretty soon that'll be, well, it already is. It's all over the state. But it will be enhanced as more and more of these cameras are put out. Weld County's on board and putting up some additional cameras as well. So we're really seeing the benefits of this start to increase exponentially as the system grows. And so that awareness, the alerts off the plates is one aspect of it. Officers can also go into that system and search for a vehicle if they are just given maybe a description, maybe a partial plate. A lot of times they will get a really good description of the vehicle and no plate at all. So they can search just our local cameras for that black SUV if they happen to have a certain make, and they can pull up all of those that have gone by the cameras in the last 30 days. And a lot of times it will result in an identification, and then they'll have the license plate from it and can continue to follow up on that case and continue to work those leads. So it's been beneficial. We've also rolled out a couple of mobile units. That's kind of something that we envisioned and put together ourselves. So we had one speed trailer. That's the trailer that we deploy that as you go by, it flashes your speed at you. Everybody loves it. It collects traffic data as part of that system. So it's how many vehicles, what their speed is. So as we get complaints about speeding in areas, we will deploy that trailer for that reason. But it also has one of these cameras on the back. So if we have an area where maybe there's construction thefts, maybe there's some other type of activity going on, we can deploy that trailer in that area and actually collect this LPR data as well. And so we like that so much that we decided to get another one. So we budgeted last year, and this year we bought a new speed trailer and created another one. And what that allows us to do is basically bookend. So if there's a location and people can kind of go either way, we can bookend that with these trailers and collect the data that we're looking for. And so one of the ways that we're going to use that is when we have special events like we did Saturday. You'll see those trailers out on kind of the main thoroughfares. And then if something were to occur and we had a vehicle description that we were looking for, we'd be able to go back and review that data and hopefully have some leads to go on. Neighborhoods are also getting involved. We have one HOA that's on board and has put these cameras at all the entrances, exits to their neighborhood. Measuring the success of that has maybe not been quite as easy as I thought. Because they haven't had a whole lot of stuff happen, which is a good thing. I believe the cameras being up, clear signage that says they're there is probably a deterrent to some of that occurring. So in that aspect, you know, trying to determine just how successful that is and measure what's not happening is pretty difficult. So, but in a lot of cases, we did have information to follow up on, and so there has been some good success in that area. And then kind of the last area that these cameras are really used and well used is in the business areas. Just the amount of people that go in and out of gas stations and kind of those high traffic areas, they've been really helpful there. So we're trying to figure out kind of how to balance this. What should the town of Mead be putting out there and doing to support this system, and encouraging neighborhoods to get involved and pick up the bill for their piece of that, and then businesses as well. If we can get businesses to group together and support that as well, we think this system will continue to be more and more successful as we move forward. Can you push that to the next slide? It seemed to be working for me.
Just on the slide. On the slide. The next one.
So that's a quick picture of just kind of what the stationary camera looks like. It's just a camera on a pole with a solar array above it. So those are powered by solar only and work very well. So that's really all there is to it, which makes it really versatile. You can put it just about anywhere. The next. So this is in the number of plates read summary for 1 month. So these are the 4 cameras that the town has deployed, and we had almost 90,000 plates read in 1 month. Now, obviously there's some duplicates in there. And you can tell there's some sort of odd spikes in there. And some of that I can account for and some I can't. But if you go to the next slide is, this is actually the number of hits that we received. And that's hits off of license plates that were read and had some something attached to it that was alerted to officers. So 56 of those in 1 month. No more than 6 a day. 6 was the maximum that we had in 1 day. But if you see sort of those spikes, most of those spikes occur on a Friday. What's up with Friday? I don't know, but it's the #1 day for license plate hits. So I thought that was interesting. The next one is searches. So these are searches that officers are going into the system and actually searching for a vehicle, whether that be by license plate specifically or by description of the vehicle. It was used 79 times in 1 month. So that's quite a few. You know, if they're working a case and they may do several searches trying to find that vehicle. So they may search it different ways to see if they're successful. They may not exactly know the make or something. And so they may run it a couple different ways. And then the next slide shows sort of, we've tried to refine the way that we document the success of this program and sort of what our wins are. And so this probably isn't as inclusive for the year as I would like it to be, but we've gotten quite a bit better. So moving forward, I feel like we should have a good chance of catching all of them. But as you can see, there's only one that we were unable to locate that was a case generated and where Flock was utilized as part of it. And then the rest of them were either at least leads generated, and 7 of them were cleared not by arrest, but by some other means. And then 4 were actually cleared by arrest. So that kind of goes to show you, if we get information out of this system, it's a pretty good chance that that case is going to be successful. And then there's one more slide, not to give away all the locations, but I wanted to show you sort of how, so 4 of those at the top there are actually 3 of those indicate the location of Mead's cameras. And then all those other ones are other agencies. So Firestone, Frederick, kind of going down the one side, and then in Longmont. And so as you can see, that network is kind of building up around us, and just makes that much more effective, because our officers are able to capitalize on that and utilize those cameras as well as our own. So just wanted to give you a brief update on kind of how that project was going. And I want to thank Commander Smith. He's done a lot of work on this, and is the master now at building those trailers. So I'm hoping he doesn't go out and start his own business doing that, but he's very good at it. So it's been very productive, and I'm happy to answer any questions if that raised any.
Thanks, Chief. And Tricia.
I just had, so it reads just the rear plate? Or can it read, I mean, like, so if you put it at an entrance to a neighborhood, whatever direction you face it, it's either gonna read every car coming in or every car going out, but it can't read both, right?
That's pretty much correct. Sometimes it will catch, it will, it's kind of designed to catch one lane, and they recommend setting up for the rear, because more cars have rear plates than they do front plates. But it sometimes will catch cars coming the other direction, because if the road's narrow enough, it can kind of catch that. So it kind of depends on the width of the road. And then as technology is improving, they are coming out with cameras that are designed to cover multiple lanes. And so like out on 66, we feel like there's a product now that we would be able to actually catch both lanes going one direction. Obviously there could be cars positioned to block that view, so you wouldn't necessarily get 100%, but most of them you would.
And so I'm assuming the cameras themselves have an expense. And then how much do you pay like monthly to store this data for a while?
So the cameras range from 3,000 to 3,500.
Yeah, about 3,000 now.
3,000 a year. So that includes, so there is a cellular service you're paying for, obviously a connection there. And then any maintenance, anything else to do with it is covered in that contract. So for $3,000 a year, it's the camera and any maintenance or service that goes along with that. So it's kind of an.
So do we not own it then? We're basically like leasing it, or?
Correct.
Oh,
Correct, we're
okay.
leasing it.
So anything that needs to get done with it, or if it were to get hit by a car or something like that.
They would come out and replace
come out
it.
and
Yeah.
replace that. Oh, okay. So we lease them. Interesting. And so that covers then all the data storage as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And the software, any software licenses or anything like that is all included within that.
Deb?
Did you have one out on Third Street recently?
We had 2 deployed out on 3rd Street over the weekend.
Okay, because my sister-in-law called me. She goes, Debbie, are they taking pictures so they can give you tickets? And I says, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, no automatic tickets associated with that.
Okay, yeah, because she said it looked like it took a picture when she went by or something.
Nothing to see. So she would have, if she saw flashes or anything, that's part of the speed trailer equipment. This camera doesn't flash or anything, so
Okay.
you wouldn't notice it.
Okay, so she was probably going a little too fast.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Chief, very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, our third and final information item tonight is our Citizens Initiative Marijuana update by our Town Clerk Administrative Services Director, Mary Strutt. And I hope that we all read the AIS that she put together. It is very informative, and thank you very much for putting it together. Mary?
Thank you, Mayor and trustees, and I appreciate that.
So I'm here tonight because at your last meeting, Mr. Autumn Todd and David Wilsinski came in and they're working on a citizens initiative in the town of Mead about putting marijuana on the ballot. Mr. Todd is on the Zoom call tonight. So they asked if the board would consider foregoing the citizens initiative and just putting it directly on the ballot themselves. And the board requested more information on that. I thought it was important for the board to understand Mead's history with marijuana, which is why I provided the detail in the agenda item summary report. And I'm just going to go over it kind of briefly, even though it is in my report, just in case anybody's listening or didn't read my summary. Medical marijuana in Mead was the first, or in Colorado was approved in about 2000. That's the first that it was approved here. Actually, I understand in about 1975 is when it became a little bit deregulated and not as much of a jail offense. That's probably how this all started progressing through. But in 2000, medical marijuana became legal in Colorado. In 2009, I'm assuming just from the documents that I found, a medical marijuana facility probably came to Mead. And so at that time, a moratorium was placed on it so that the board can make some regulations. They did make some regulations. And then there was actually one or two medical marijuana facilities in Mead at the time. I have limited records on them because, well, records retention, we don't keep everything, but I can see that it did happen. However, those ordinances were repealed and replaced in 2011. So at least one facility and maybe two were required to close at that time. So I don't know if some of you who were on the board back then know the history of that, but I couldn't find any more. In 2012 is when retail marijuana was approved by the voters of Colorado, and it started in 2014. But to preempt that, the Board of Trustees in February of 2013 put a prohibition on marijuana facilities in the town of Mead. And the prohibition has been on the books since 2013. We have never allowed retail marijuana in the town of Mead. It has gone before voters twice, in 2019 and in 2021, and has failed both times. And the second time, the 2021, was brought to the town of Mead by Mr. Todd and his associates, and they did go through the citizens initiative process. They got the required signatures and they did put it on the ballot. However, it did fail, about 60-40. So pretty high failure rate. However, marijuana continues in the state of Colorado. It is becoming legalized in more places. So they're bringing it back to us again. So I kind of told the board, you kind of have three options. One is you can always just outlaw marijuana, or you could always accept marijuana if you want. You could do that. Brighton did that. It's up to you, and it's up to you if you think that's what the voters of Mead want. Since this has gone before, it might be a good idea to let the voters decide again. The board can do that in two ways. Mr. Todd and his associates has turned in the initial citizens initiative, which I did put in your packet so that you could read it and see what was in there. It's not bad. I mean, it does cover some of the things that we'd like it to cover. But if this goes to the voters of Mead and it is approved by the voters of Mead, that would be our law. And it would be written by the petitioners and not by our town attorney's office. So a second option that I provide is the board can always do as the petitioners asked, and they can let our town attorneys write up the regulations for marijuana and still put it to a vote of the people of Mead. The petition for it to go through, they have to have their signatures by July 15th. They're prepared to do that. They actually did resubmit their petition on Friday, according to some comments I made to them with our meeting last Wednesday, and it looks good. I will probably be issuing their notice of sufficiency on their petition tomorrow. So I have 5 days to do that from when they submitted it, but it does look good. So some things to consider: the citizens initiative is a legal process that any residents have in order to put something on the ballot, and that is the process they're following. It is in state statute. It does require that they get signatures from 5% of the registered voters of Mead who want to see this on the ballot. That 5% is about 250 signatures. And then it does come back to the board after those signatures are acquired. And the board at that time has two options. And your options at that time are either to adopt the ordinance as written or put it on the ballot. At that time, you don't have the option to rewrite it. If you did rewrite it, it would be a competing initiative on the ballot, and that would be really confusing to put two of the same questions on the ballot. So to be fair to the petitioners, the time to decide is soon if the board is going to do this themselves. I did, people say that the reason to allow marijuana in your town is because of revenue. I have not been able to track down exactly what the revenue would be because a lot of that information is proprietary information. I have sales tax information. We can't release sales tax information because it gives you information on the business owner that is their proprietary information that you're not allowed to have. And that is not public information. I can tell you that there is our town of Mead sales tax would apply to any sales of marijuana in the town. That is 3%. There is a 15% statewide tax that's put on marijuana, and Mayor asked me this before the meeting. 10% of that 15 is split among the municipalities that have retail sales. So there would be some state sales tax that comes back. There is an excise tax on cultivation facilities, which we also have outlawed. The state sales tax on cultivation facilities goes to schools, preschools, and stuff. Many municipalities do put an extra excise tax on marijuana sales. That would have to be approved by the voters. So if that were something to be considered in the future, that would have to go before a vote of the people. Some do. I saw that Berthoud, interesting, does a fee, a $3 per transaction fee on marijuana. That's interesting. Berthoud is very new to marijuana, and that's how they've decided to do it. So that's all I have on revenue. So I'm sorry I don't have more information on that. I did notice, according to the Colorado Department of Revenue, the marijuana website there, it actually appears that marijuana sales receipts have peaked in about 2021 and have been going down since then. So that was very interesting graphs on their website. And that's just statewide. So does anybody have any questions for me? I know we've all gone down this road before. Questions or comments? Thank you, Mary, for giving us the background of it. But I would like to open it up for a discussion with the board of the three options that are in front of us. I'd like to get the petitioners some kind of direction, since they're on the phone tonight, of letting them go ahead and do it, or we're going to do it, or repealing the ordinance. So I'd like to open it up to find out what your thoughts are. Herman, I'll start with you. There you go. I know.
I think what I would want to say is if this is going to end up with something that's on the ballot for our citizens, something on the ballot for our citizens to vote on, I think we do need to give them some information. I mean, I'll be very frank with you. For me right now, it's too little too late. I think the iron was hot in 2020. I think the town of Mead had an opportunity to turn over a lot of good revenue and sales tax. But to Mary's point, I think it has peaked and it's slowing down. And so it gets to a point that says, okay, we're going to fight the battle again about whether or not we're going to allow cannabis in the town. And it's a battle to fight, but at the end of the day, what do I get for the battle? If we're not going to be able to draw that much tax revenue out of it. But I would, if it were me, I would like it that the town of Mead put the regulations in place. And we would want to manage how all that's going to work. I think that's a very important piece for the citizens. That was some of the concerns and complaints we heard last time. Everybody thought we're going to have a shop downtown Mead and stuff. I think it's important to be able to identify where it's going to be, all those kinds of things. And I would like that in our pocket, not in the citizens initiative.
Tricia, I'm gonna go down the line.
I mean, I feel like probably revenues are dropping because more and more states around us are legalizing it, so people don't have to come here to get it anymore. So I think that that probably has a lot to do with the fact that the revenue of it has dropped in the state of Colorado, probably gone to other places that have now legalized it. It's not going away. Marijuana is not going away. And if you look at it, every town around us is legalizing it. So we can, in my opinion, we can be dumb and we can sit here and watch these shops pop up all around us and make revenue for all the towns around us while we sit here and get absolutely nothing. It's not going away. It's gonna be in everywhere around us. We might as well get a piece of the pie. And I think that in order to do that, we probably need to draft our own ordinance and make sure that we control where and how and everything about it. I mean, I guess the lack of the zoning conditions that is missing from the petition, that's probably the most concerning thing for me that we would not have control over. Otherwise, I mean, timeline implementation doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, but not having any control over the zoning that it would be allowed in would definitely concern me. So that's my thoughts.
I agree with Herman and Trish, at this point. I think knowing kind of what's coming down the federal pike also, we're losing the classification of marijuana as being illegal federally. It's almost going to make it like a pharmacy drug. And if it becomes that, I don't know why we don't have a pharmacy. Because we may as well, if somebody else is going to be taking advantage of it, it may as well be us. And I think I agree that we have the opportunity. I suspect that the people in the town will vote no again, but at some point in time, it's going to be yes. And when it's yes, we want to be the ones who are deciding when, where, and how, and not let it just kind of happen. That's all.
If it's gonna go on the ballot, I think we should have control of where, like they said, where, and not in downtown, you know. If it's gonna be on the ballot, it's gonna be on the ballot. And whether or not it gets voted yes, I still think we need control of what's going on.
I agree with that part. We definitely need to have control versus not. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that through the Citizens Initiative, it will be something that will be on the ballot. It's been obviously done before. But I'm still not in favor of it for our town, regardless of whatever funds it will bring to the coffers. Still not supportive. You got to make a stand, I think. So that's mine.
I'm on the fence whether or not the town would vote for it, but I think if we're going to have it on the ballot one way or another, we should control it. That way we have some say and it's not just random. Because I look at some of the shops that popped up in Longmont before they put their regulations in place, and they were in places they should not be. And then they've put their regulations and forced those locations that are left. They've gone from 22 down to 6. So they forced them to look like the neighborhood and security measures and things like that. I think we need to control it from the start.
Well, 6 out of 7, right? 6. I agree with all of these, the comments tonight. So Mary, so give us a little going steps forward of directing staff to come up with an ordinance or not an ordinance, I'm sorry. Direction for a ballot question, correct? Sorry. Yes, Herman.
Before you go there, I'd like to ask a question. If marijuana becomes something that happens, is it a separate and unique thing? Because the other up and coming thing is mushrooms. do we encompass those things or are they two separate entities and you have to deal with them as separate entities?
I believe they're separate and unique entities because the initiative that was passed for the mushrooms is also in the Colorado Constitution, and it has its own rules regarding it.
Okay.
So, and I do want to just say what I think we'd be looking for, and the town attorney, Kathy Guckenberger, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think the direction would be to the town attorney's office to write some regulations regarding marijuana to be put on the ballot for November of 2024. I do want to clarify one thing, that even if these, and it's probably minor, but I want to make sure that you understand, if the citizens initiative codification went through too, the board always has the right to make changes to that. You can't totally scrap it the next day if the voters put it in, but there could be some adjustments to it made.
That's correct. I mean, you would have our office draft the entire regulatory scheme and then refer that to the voters for consideration.
May I ask a follow-up question? Do we have a chance to look at that before it goes on the ballot? Okay, not sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Kathy, and welcome.
It's really nice to be here. Some of you I haven't met, so
All right.
nice to meet you.
We don't have cake, but we can get together afterwards. No cake
So,
tonight.
Mayor,
Yes.
I had a quick question. So
Yep.
on that, when it's drafted, we have a chance to look at it, as you said, and then we can make adjustments to it if need be, or once it's written, that's the way it would go on the ballot?
Well, yeah, we would be consulting with staff and we would, right, nothing, and then you would have the ultimate discretion when the referral time comes as well.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And if I could, Mayor,
Yep.
and what I'm hearing, I think reading between the lines, one of the things that we would cover is the zoning and where they could go. So this will be an iterative procedure. We'll bring that in and we'll take a crack at it based on what we think makes sense, and then you can weigh in on it. Because there are certain places that would make more sense than others. You know, like you said, maybe not downtown, but there may be some places on the east side that make sense, and maybe on the west side, but we'll look with our planning department, our attorney, and come back with some draft language for you guys to think if that's reasonable. But I think the important thing tonight is for Mary to give clear direction to the petitioners, because it wouldn't be fair to them to head off in this direction and then not do it, and then they miss their window, so.
Yeah.
And if I could just piggyback on that, we've done this in a lot of jurisdictions and we have sort of an idea, and obviously we would check in with staff, but what we tend to do is call out policy decision areas for you to help, give you the bulk of what works, what we think would work, what's standard, and then we try to highlight some things that we think your input will be very, very helpful. Of course, your input would be helpful on and welcome on everything, but we try to highlight some of those things for you all
Okay.
to think about.
Thank you. And could you update us on the timeline as we move forward, as we're getting to the August timeframe, or whenever we have to do this?
Correct. So if the board is referring this to the voters, the timeline is our last meeting in August.
Okay.
When the actual ballot has to be referred.
Okay. Thank you very much. Tricia.
One more thing that I thought of. So you said that we would have to add a tax separately. If it were, so would you put that within the same ballot language, or would we wait and see if it passed and then say, we've got a 6-month timeline for it to be, implemented or whatever, then we have to go back and later and ask for a percentage or to add a tax percentage on. How does that part work?
Generally from what I've seen, putting the tax on the same ballot as the question sometimes becomes confusing. Because what happens if the tax passes and the ballot measure doesn't, right? So if one goes and the other doesn't, sometimes it's confusing. It almost seems, it would be my recommendation that almost we wait a year and see what happens, and then ask the voters for a tax at that time in a year. It also could confuse the issue if the board is considering any other tax issues in the November ballot,
Okay,
right?
I was just
So,
curious.
but you can always see, we would know if one shop opened up in Mead or if three opened up in Mead, we would know from the sales tax we collected what type of excise tax we might be able to collect if that were something we were interested in looking at. And we could also do more comparison of the rates that are charged by other cities.
And if I could just add on, Ms. Strutt makes some really good points, especially about having to make the estimate on the tax, which is always the issue with Tabor, is trying to get the right dollar amount. But I am aware of at least one community that was faced with a similar situation that had two questions on the ballot. Not exactly the same situation here, but one question was tax related, the other was actual regulations, and they were conditioned upon the passage of the other. So we can work through that option potentially.
Good. Chris?
You mentioned, and Bertha is using fees instead of the tax. I don't have any issues with fees for a couple of reasons. One, I think that they should be voted on by the by the people, first of all, because they are technically a tax. But the flip side of that is if you attach it as a fee, it's non-taxable. Isn't that true? From what we found out from the liquor board.
Let us look at that.
Okay.
Because my limited knowledge of law, I'm leaning into her lane, is you don't have to go to the voters for a fee.
That's correct.
That was the whole argument over a stormwater fee. A lot of communities say we're going to ask anyhow, but a fee and a tax are two different things.
Right.
I don't believe you add the fee on and then tax it with the fee. I think fees are separate. But let us look at it. We'll come back to you with, we'll flesh all this out.
Okay, and then one other thing is, can we make sure that we include vending machines as part of this? Because there are marijuana vending machines that are being approved. So I just want to make
I'd
sure
say
that-
we'll look into that too.
Please,
Yeah.
thank you.
Certainly. Okay.
Live and learn, huh?
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, well, moving on to our proclamation tonight. It's Flag Day, June 14th, 2024, and National Flag Week, June 9th through the 15th. And I've asked Trustee Broadhead to read the proclamation tonight.
Whereas in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson established June 14th of each year as Flag Day. And whereas Flag Day marks the Second Continental Congress adoption of the first U.S. national flag on June 14, 1777. And whereas the first U.S. flag featured the same 13 red and white stripes as seen in the flag today, while the number and arrangement of stars has changed as the number of states has increased. And whereas Americans have commemorated the adoption of the Stars and Stripes in many ways, displaying the flag proudly in front of homes, at parades and other patriotic or observances. And whereas the U.S. flag serves as a guiding symbol of our nation's journey. Now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the Town of Mead, Will County, Colorado, do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2024 as Flag Day and the week of June 9th through June 15th, 2024 as National Flag Week, and call upon all citizens of the Town of Mead to observe Flag Day and National Flag Week by displaying the flag of the United States of America, given under her hand and seal of the Town of Mead, Colorado, on this 10th day of June, 2024.
Thank you, Deb. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
I'll move to sign the proclamation.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Schranz,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
and Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. 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 All right. Next is our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments during the public hearing on item 10 and for the items not on the agenda during the second public comment, item 11. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to speak to the board during this first public comment period? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second?
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries for the consent agenda. Thank you, staff, for putting this together for us tonight. Next is our public hearing for the night. There are 2 public hearings scheduled. For each hearing, we will hear from staff and then the applicant may present. After the applicant, we will take questions or comments from the public, followed by the trustees. The first public hearing is only for the eligibility of the AMK annexation. After that public hearing is completed, we will hold the public hearing for the annexation itself, as well as zoning and annexation agreement. I will now open the public hearing, and the time now is 6:56, and I will turn the podium over to our town planner, Colin, to present the staff report. Sir, you have the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I don't have a presentation for tonight, but I promise I'll be brief, so you don't have to listen to me monologue up here. But so as detailed in your staff report for the packet tonight, we're only looking at the eligibility portion of the annexation for the AMK property. The consolidated public hearing for the annexation and zoning of the property, we are recommending will be continued to the July 29th Board of Trustees meeting. And that's just because we're still working through the annexation agreement with the applicant. We just need some more time to finalize that agreement. But as far as the eligibility requirements for AMK goes, excuse me, lost my train of thought. Property just needs to conform with Colorado revised statutes 31-12-104 and 31-12-105 to be eligible for annexation by a municipality. So as detailed in your report, this property meets all of those requirements listed in the statutes. There's no election that is required for the annexation, and the petition has been signed has been signed by 100% of the landowners for the area being proposed for annexation. And there are no additional terms or conditions that are being imposed for this annexation. So at this time, we recommend that you approve the eligibility resolution, and then in the next public hearing, we would ask that you continue the hearing for July 29th for the actual annexation and zoning of the property.
A presentation? Okay, great. Now, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on the eligibility hearing. When you recognize, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Are there anyone here in the audience that would like to comment in this public hearing? Okay, do any of the trustees have any comments or questions? All right. I will now close the public hearing at 6:59. And is there a motion regarding resolution number 51-R-2024 AMK annexation?
I move to approve resolution 51-R-2024, a resolution of the town of Mead, Colorado, setting forth certain findings of fact and conclusions as to the annexation of certain property known as the AMK annexation, based on a finding that all applicable criteria for annexation have been satisfied as detailed in the agenda item summary report prepared for the June 10th, 2024 board meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Strands,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. I understand from staff report that we have a request to continue the public hearing until 29th for the annexation and establishment of initial zoning. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing and continue it to the date certain?
I move to open and continue the public hearing to consider approval of the ordinances to one, annex certain territory known as the AMK annexation to the town of Mead. Two, establish the initial zoning for the AMK annexation as light industrial. And three, approve the AMK annexation agreement, which continued hearing shall be held on July 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Mead Town Hall, 441 3rd Street, Mead, Colorado.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for being here with us tonight. We'll move on to our second public comment of the evening. This comment period is for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. All of the other guidelines previously stated apply. Is there anyone that would like to speak during this second public comment period? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our elected official reports. Any of the town trustees would like to report on anything? All right, I put in there from our last District 2 meeting, it was the agenda and all the things that the CML produced for us during the CML for the actual meeting. Our town manager, trustee Broadhead and trustee Adams and I attended. It's very, very well done by CML. I just wanted to put that into the packet so that you all had the same information that we had at the meeting. And I just want a big shout out to the staff and for our community for kicking off the summer for block party, even though it was kind of, I don't know, I would say chilly for the day, but we all had a good time. The band was great. It was a wonderful day and I just appreciate staff, their time on it and appreciate the community coming out. The band was awesome. And next, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The June 24th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 7:02. Thank you very much for everybody that's here in the room and online for attending the meeting. Thank you. Please drive home safely.